Hello there, welcome to Heart Explained. And the world as you know it isn't really true. It doesn't exist in the way that you know it. And I'm going to try and break it down. Now, I think that a lot of people live with a state of awareness that makes them believe in the reality that they're in. They have certain sort of dynamics to this reality and sort of say that this is true. And if anybody doesn't agree with this reality, then they are completely bonkers. They are completely alienated. Now we see this with everyday life. How many times do you ever speak to somebody and have a specific point on, let's say, COVID or politics, and you're met with somebody who says the exact same belief as you? Now you might have people pleasers out there that say, oh yes, or that's a good point, and really, you know, you've got to ask yourself, are they confronting you with the way that you appeases you or appeases them, or do they have a different belief that they don't want to say? So you don't really know what's going on in anybody's head, and we've got this different belief system. Now there's some things that are definitely not true. Every different religion cannot be true. That would make lots of random gods and lots of random rules that don't completely merge with each other. So we then say that an atheist would come along and say and pick apart these points that aren't true. Unfortunately, an atheist has a God as well. His God is no God, and it's still a God in his own right, because he believes in an ideology, so does religion. He believes this to be completely true in his reality, which it is, so does religious people. And what you see is that you're merged into a crazy game. Now, not just with religion and atheists, let's just say you haven't got a point of view on religion. Politics. You have Conservative, you have Labour, and they fight each other rather than work together for the good of people. Now, we call that democracy. That's not really democracy. If we break it down and dissect it, you will see that politics don't really serve the people. They serve a certain agenda for a specific group of people, which is higher and wealthier than the average majority of people. That's not democracy. Dissected. And let's say you don't believe in politics. Let's throw that out. Science has to be true. Science has got to be true. Well, why is science possibly wrong? How is that? How does that hold no ground in this world? Well, what science does is say everything that's measurable with maths and our measuring tools, we will measure. Everything that is unmeasurable, we will say that it is myth, it is magic, it is silliness, it is pseudoscience. In fact, I don't even use the term magic. In their eyes, magic doesn't exist. And then you can dissect science to the reality that, hold on a sec, gravity was always there. It wasn't a scientist that invented gravity. It wasn't Einstein who invented relativity. He just had an insight of something that was already existing. It was rubbish. Let's take science away. Now let's take language. Language can't be wrong. Language is what we read, what we communicate with. That cannot be a lie in this reality that we live in. Let's take language. Language is something where we have learnt a vocabulary, and the only reason that you know what I'm saying on this video is because you've learnt a similar vocabulary in the head. Now, not only do you match words in my sentence to form the sentence in your head to be able to understand what I'm saying, what you also do is realise that, do you agree or disagree with this language? Is this language truthful or is it a lie? And you ask yourself this question, and this is happening within a second of somebody saying something, and this comes into the belief system. Now, the amazing thing is, there is only lies in language. There is only lies in words. There is only lies in the outside external world, what we hang on to as a reality. You see, the truth actually can't be said. I cannot speak any truth because I have the ability to dissect it. Dissect it to the point where God exists and maybe God doesn't. Maybe God is another form of ideology. Now we take language away and we throw that away. And then you have another 5 minutes of me in silence. Well, that wouldn't really work to make the point. Now that deep philosophical points based on some core information, and I can do the same with spirituality and law of attraction. You have an ideology that suits you, that heals your pain, and you hang on to it. That's not philosophy whatsoever. That's not open-minded. That's you hanging on to the truth that soothes your pain. And why wouldn't you do that? But then that ideology comes back and is portrayed into a reality that can't be morally understood by everybody else. And if that vocab doesn't meet your vocab that you now have and say this is definitely true because I've experienced it, I've felt it, and there's no room for anything else, you will cut yourself away from anybody disagreeable to something that makes you comfortable, regardless that uncomfortability took you to that place. Your open-minded and your belief in other beliefs actually took you to that point in time, and now you put the flag down and say, this is as far as I can go. And what you see is, if you start to dissect your reality around you, you'll see that it's not true. It's not real. You don't have to fear the things that you think that you have to fear. Let's take COVID and break COVID down. You believe that you're either fearless of COVID or you're in fear of COVID. And the people who fear COVID fear all the consequences it brings. And it triggers all these emotions. It triggers all these emotions in people through finances, relationships, through the fear of becoming ill and dying from it, or even worse, passing it on to a relative. It's affecting you in a big way. And all it's really doing is affecting your emotions. And your emotions are actually controlled by you. You have the ability to control these. So even that isn't true in your reality. So when you take all these walls down, you would probably be saying, hold on a sec, Craig, you're taking that many false illusions away from me, which is the very fabrication of my life. What does it mean for me? Am I going to get out of bed in the morning? Am I going to feel an emotion ever again? Well, I think when you strip down true reality, it makes you go to the core of what you are. You understand all the pain and suffering, but you understand how it wasn't really pain and suffering. It was a misunderstanding of physical emotions. It was a misunderstanding of a reality that wasn't even real in the first place. And then in this sort of ghost town emptiness that is the new reality, which again still isn't real, it can be dissected, but in this new place you realise that it's very important to actually feel uncomfortable, and you should actually go towards things that make you uncomfortable, because you will learn and grow and expand your intelligence. Now, it is very important to expand your intelligence because consciousness, or understanding consciousness, makes you more intellectual. Now, with this better mind, you will be able to see that you can start to perceive things completely different. You can certainly wake up in the fog and start to sort of wash it away from your eyes. And you can do this with relationships. You can do this by having the strength to get out of a domestic, violent relationship. You can see this by getting some esteem in your life because you have none and you're aware of it now, and you're like, oh my God, I understand that I don't past reasons which were delusional, and I don't need it. And it gets to a point where you realise that it would be great if everybody knew this place. Unfortunately, you can't go back and awaken anybody to this. You can't tell them because they haven't experienced this, and you've got to just hope that they re-watch this over and over again till they really get it. Because what this does is gets rid of your mental health. It gets you out of a bad relationship that currently you're stuck in. It makes you block somebody who's being nasty, where before you actually feed them their toxic behaviour. You're their feeder of it, and not even, you're unconscious to this. And at the very early level of this conscious awareness, this is what happens. At the very deepest level, you realise, what is the reason that I do this if there is no truth and there is no reality? Well, there's two reasons. You're a biological human that has to live on this planet with all these people every day, which just happens to feel like you're one collective sort of process. Very collective and connective process. And you realise that anything bad out there is actually more of a projection of me in here. So it's an automatic response, more conscious response. Everything that the ego mind did before, but only far more intelligently. And you see that it's important that you sympathise with somebody who's not woke up. And you subtly guide them to easier ways to be asleep or awake in the dream that they're in. Complete illusion. And the second point of this biological process that is doing this is you share this world, not only with the humans, but you share it with the same sort of biological nature process which contains you, the earth, universe, the interaction with nature. The whole part just flows like one musical sort of chord, like one singular note that is in perfect harmony. So it makes you do two things: be good for people, be good for nature. Nature in the representation of planet Earth, the ozone layer, the whole construction of life. And in this place, you realise that you are a god, and God doesn't really need to exist. And you don't have to be a god that shouts at people rules. You have to just be almost a role model of what a real life God would look like. Now, it's important that you break down illusion after illusion, because I know some of the most intellectual brains still can't be open-minded enough to see a bigger picture, which is our language will never be able to speak of the truth that is truly out there. We can clamber onto the side of any wishing well wall that we want to, and we can project this into projects for ourselves. The ability to say, wait there, I do this, but I also give 20% to charity. Like, that's good. To me, that sounds like someone's using language that says that charity is 20% separate of themselves. If I get anything, I would be giving 100% to charity, because I would understand that that charity is 100% me. There is no splitting of the pie. No, it's not about the survival, about what you want to do. It means more to life than that. Your life means more to life than that. And it doesn't mean that we have to view history as a catastrophic error, and we have been unconscious and we've done terrible things, but we can view it like we would in life, a lesson to learn that this chaotic way that we're going isn't right. And the future, which is arguably already happening as we speak, can be projected with this feeling, the complete mirrored reflection of the chaotic past that we've always had. And the dream is a utopia for humans, animals, nature, any green men that happen to land and want to borrow a tree because a tree will feed 1,000 little green men. We become one collective system that finally works with these two laws, these two facts, and this way you can all have your different beliefs as long as you fundamentally are working for these same two core principles. And it turns out to be another ideology. The only difference is I accept my words are lies. I accept the images that these words project are shadows and illusions. I understand that reality can never be explained by my intellect and my mind, and I understand the process just makes me feel like this is the best thing to do because I'm so connected with everything. Now, I'm not saying that that is a feeling of love. I'm saying that it's a state of my nature interpreted by me, a talking monkey. And the talking monkey isn't going to create a philosophy based on love and pain and spirituality and religion and science. That's all a monkey saying words. There is no room for a monkey saying words that can ever suggest that it's truth. Because the truth, once spoken, will just turn into lies. And I think that we have to break down these barriers. This is a SOS deep going into philosophy for you if you've never had these ideas before. But if you just break them down subtly to start thinking certain things in your life, are you projecting that feeling onto the world? Did you doubt that the phone call was going to go bad before it went bad? These simple little philosophies, look into your life and what's real and dissect it. You then expand your awareness. You expand your awareness and have an experience that feels good. And you'll get to this stage eventually. And your mental health is no longer mental health. Your pain is no longer pain. Everything is more of a laugh, as a dance, a joke. There's a point where you do something, but that point is so pointless. It's completely pointless. It's hilarious that you even do it at all, but it's what you can do, and it's incredible. And it's called art. It's called dancing. It's called culture. It's called brilliance. It's, you know, at the top end of the scale, it's called genius. And open-mindedness, not stuck on any one belief, creates that. It creates the new ideas of the future, where we can make amends for this history and this past that has been destructive. Now, doesn't that correspond with your life up to now? It's exactly the same thing. Nothing's changed. I might have added words. I might have put it into a spiel, a video, a 20-minute video to try and explain. But it's do away with the expectation that you're ever going to find any answer that you're ever going to settle with. You are lost for eternally, and that's okay. That's all right. That's very, very exciting, and even more sort of curative than you could ever imagine.